Judges, 1400 BC. The book of Judges was written by the prophet Samuel according to Jewish tradition. However, there is no substantial evidence that Samuel wrote it. We are sure that it was written during the time of the Judges because the book says that Jerusalem was controlled by the Jebusites at that time, so King David conquered Jerusalem after Judges was written. God had continuously warned the Israelites that when they followed his laws, they would prosper and would overtake their enemies. But when they refused to honor him, they would be overrun. To support the people, God sent judges to guide them toward righteousness and to help them organize to battle their foes. Judges 1, Israel fights the remaining Canaanites. After Joshua died, there were still Canaanites to be driven out of the land. God selected the tribe of Judah to fight against the Canaanites, and the Simeonites decided to join them. They killed 10,000 men at Bezek. Adonizedek, king of Bezek, fled, and when they caught him, they cut off his thumbs and his big toes. He had done the same to 70 kings. He said that God was paying him back. They took him to Jerusalem, and he died there. Judah went into Jerusalem, and they burned the city down. Then they overcame the Canaanites in Hebron, Sheshai, Ahiman, Talmai, and Debir. Caleb, who was one of the original spies who went into Canaan, offered his daughter, Aksah, in marriage to anyone who captured Kiriath Sepher. Caleb's brother Othniel took on the offer, and after he captured Kiriath Sepher, he married Akashi. Then the tribes of Judah and Simeon went on to take the Canaanites living in Zaphath, Gaza, Ashkelon, and Enron. They could not drive out the people of the plains because they had chariots fitted with iron. The Benjamites did not drive out all of the Jebusites who lived in Jerusalem. The tribe of Joseph attacked Bethel with the help of a man in the city. They spared his house and family. There were many Canaanites and Amorites who they could not drive out. Judges 2, the angel of the Lord at Bochim. After Joshua and all the elders of his time had died, a new generation came up who did not know God and all the things he had done for the Israelites. The angel of the Lord came from Gilgal to Bochim to warn the new generation who started worshiping Baal and various gods of the people of Canaan, who they failed to drive out. So God turned against them, and when raiders plundered them, and when they went out to fight, God was not with them, and they were in great distress. So God brought up judges to oversee the people and to help against those oppressing them. As soon as each judge died, they returned to worshiping the false gods. They refused to turn from their evil practices and stubborn ways. Judges 3. God allowed the Canaanites to live among the Israelites to test them. He left them so the new generation would learn about war because they had no battle experience. The king of Cushan-Rishathaim took over the Israelites, and they were subject to him for 8 years. When the people cried out to God, he brought up a savior, Othniel, son of Kenaz, Caleb's younger brother. Othniel was the first judge and overtook King Rishathaim, and there was peace for 40 years until Othniel died. Then the Israelites became evil again and started worshiping other gods. So God allowed King Elon of Moab to overtake the Israelites, and they were subject to him for 18 years. Again, the people cried out to God, and he gave them Ehud, a Benjamite. Ehud was left-handed, or perhaps he had a lame right hand. He went to see King Elon, and he told the king's guard that he was there to give the king a message from God. They frisked him, but missed his dagger, which was on his right side. During the visit, he pulled out his two-edged dagger with his left hand and thrust it into the king's belly. The king was very fat, and the sword plunged all the way into his body. Elon escaped, and then he ordered the Israelites to attack, and they killed 10,000 Moabites, and they had peace for 80 years. Next, God gave them Shamgar, who killed 600 Philistines with an ox goad. Judges 4, Deborah. Then Ehud died, and the Israelites fell back into their evil ways. King Jabin of Canaan oppressed the Israelites for 20 years. So they again called out to God. Deborah, a prophet, was leading the Israelites at that time. She sent for Barak, who was the son of Abinoam, and told him that God commanded him to take 10,000 men up to Mount Tabor. God said he would bring the king's army to the Kishon River and help defeat them. Barak said he would go if Deborah would go with him. So they both went out to battle Sisera, the king's commander. With God's help, they defeated Sisera's army. Sisera fled to Jamel's tent, the wife of Heber, because there was an alliance between King Jabin and the family of Heber, who was a Canaanite. Jamel invited Sisera into the tent, gave him a drink, and covered him up to rest from exhaustion. When he went to sleep, she drove a peg through his temple, and he died. Judges 5, the Song of Deborah. This chapter covers a song that Deborah and Barak sang, recapping their defeat of King Jabin and his commander Sisera. There was peace for 40 years. Judges 6, Gideon. The Israelites fell back into sin, so God gave them into the hands of the Midianites. They were so strong that the Israelites fled to the mountains and hid in caves. The Midianites took their land and ate their crops, and there were so many that they could not count them or their camels. And again the Israelites called out to God. So God sent a prophet who told them that God had brought them out of Egypt, defeated their enemies, and told them to destroy all their altars to Baal, and they had not listened to all the warnings. The angel of the Lord came down to Gideon, the son of Joash, who was an Abizan. Gideon was threshing wheat in a winepress to keep it from the Midianites. The angel told him that he was to save Israel. Gideon wanted a sign from God to prove he was listening to God. Gideon went to prepare a sacrifice, and the angel told him to place it on a rock. The angel tapped the meat with the tip of his staff, and the rock flared up with fire and consumed the sacrifice. So Gideon realized that he was talking to God. God told him to destroy his father's altar to Baal and to build a new altar to God. All the town wanted to kill Gideon, but Gideon said, if Baal was so great, let him defend himself. After that, they named Gideon Jerusalem Baal. So the Midianites and Amalekites joined forces and camped in the valley of Jezreel. God came over Gideon and had him blow a trumpet to summon all the Abiezrites. He also sent messages to Manasseh, Asher, Zebulun, and Naphtali, asking them to come and help. Gideon wanted another sign that God would help him to overcome the enemies. So he put a wool fleece on the threshing floor and said, if the dew were only on the fleece but were not on the ground the next morning, that would be the sign. The fleece was wet, but not the ground. Gideon asks for another sign, this time, let the fleece be dry and the ground moist. Gideon got his sign. By the way, before we continue, if you would like this video to be a witness to more people, please take the time to like and subscribe. YouTube promotes the videos based on the number of likes and subscriptions. You can also leave a comment if you like. We read and respond to all comments, and we greatly appreciate your input. If you would like to be a witness to others, please use the share button below to pass on this video to friends or family members. Judges 7. Gideon defeats the Midianites. God told Gideon he had too many men. So Gideon asked how many men were afraid and wanted to go home. So 22,000 men left, leaving 10,000. If they had used the 32,000 men, they would have thought they had won on their own without God's help. God said, you still have too many men. Take them down to the water and separate those who drink by lapping the water out of their cupped hands and those who kneel to the water to drink. The 300 who lapped the water from their hands were selected to take on the enemy. God told Gideon that if he were afraid to attack, he would go down to hear what the enemy was saying. So Gideon and his servant Purah went down in the dark and overheard a dream that one of the men had. He said he dreamed that a loaf of barley bread was thrown down so hard that it knocked down a tent. One of the other men said it meant they would be defeated. So Gideon split his 300 men into 3 groups and placed them around the enemy with trumpets and empty clay jars covering the flame of their torches. When the men blew the trumpets and broke the jars so the enemy could see the torches, they shouted, "A sword for the Lord and Gideon!" The Midianite soldiers were so alarmed they started running, crying, and killing each other with their swords. Gideon's men overtook the enemy and chased them until they captured their 2 leaders, Oreb and Zeb. They killed them and brought their heads back to Gideon. Judges 8, Zebah and Zalmunna. Gideon and his 300 men continued to pursue the 2 kings of Midian, Zebah and Zalmunna. They stopped on the way and asked the people of Sukkoth for food. They refused, and Gideon told them he would flail their flesh with thorns. Gideon also asked the men of Peniel for food, and they refused. Gideon said he would return and tear down their tower. Gideon caught the 15,000 Midians left after they had killed 120,000. They killed them all, and when they saw the 2 kings, Gideon killed them both with his own hands because they had killed his brothers. On Gideon's way back, he destroyed the tower of the men of Peniel, and he took the elders of Sukkoth and failed them with thorns. Then the Israelites wanted Gideon to be their ruler. Gideon refused, but asked for each to give him an earring from the plunder they took. Gideon's ephod. So Gideon got 1,700 shekels of gold. He made an ephod of the gold and placed it in his city of Ophrah. The Israelites started worshiping the ephod, which became a snare for Gideon and his family. Even though Gideon was making a memorial to a great victory, the ephod opened up idol worship of the people of Israel. The negative results will be seen later in the life of Gideon's son, Abimelek. God had warned his people that they are not to make graven idols. He detests idols even of him. There was 40 years of peace while Gideon was alive. He had many wives, 70 sons, and a son named Abimelek from his concubine. Gideon died at a good age. The Israelites went back to worshiping Baal and showed no respect to the Gibeon family. Judges 9, Abimelek. Abimelek, the son of Gideon from his concubine, went to the men of Shechem and wanted them to make him their king. They gave him 70 pieces of silver, and he hired 70 evil men to follow him. They went to his father's home in Ophrah, and he killed his 70 brothers on one rock. However, the youngest son, Jotham, escaped and hid. All the people of Shechem gathered to crown Abimelek as king. Jotham spoke to the people from a mountain, telling them they betrayed Gideon and his family by making Abimelek king and allowing him to kill his brothers. Jotham then fled to Beer and lived there because he was afraid of his brother. So, after 3 years of being king, God caused the people of Shechem to change their allegiance from Abimelek to Gaal, who planned to overcome Abimelek. Abimelek heard that Gaal was planning against him, so he decided to go out at night and set up his warriors to ambush the people of Shechem. The next morning, Gaal and the people of Shechem came out of the city to fight with Abimelek and lost. The next day, Abimelek attacked the town, destroyed everything, and spread salt throughout and around the city so the ground could not grow crops. The remaining people fled to the tower of Shechem. Abimelek's men cut limbs, placed them around the tower, and burned it down, killing 1,000 men and women. Then Abimelek went to the town of Thebez to attack the people there. They fled to their tower and went up to the tower roof. When Abimelek came to the tower to burn it down, a woman dropped a rock down on his head and cracked his skull. He ordered his men to kill him with a sword so no one could say a woman killed him. When the men killed him, they left the city. So God punished Abimelek for killing his 70 brothers and the people of Shechem for their evil ways. Judges 10, Tola. Next, a man of Issachar named Tola, son of Puah, the son of Dodo, rose to lead Israel. He lived in Shamir and led for 23 years, and he was buried there. Jair. Next came Jair of Gilead, who led for 22 years, had 30 sons who rode 30 donkeys, and controlled 30 towns in Gilead. Jair died and was buried in Canaan. Again, the Israelites started worshiping the gods of Baal and Ashtoreths, the gods of Aram, Sidon, Moab, Ammonites, and Philistines. So God allowed the Philistines and Ammonites to overtake them and oppress them for 18 years. The Israelites repeatedly cried out to God for help, and God told them to ask their other gods. They continued to cry out, and they got rid of their gods. God could not bear their suffering. The leaders of Gilead decided to battle the Ammonites, and anyone who volunteered to lead them into battle would become the leader of all who lived in Gilead. Judges 11. Jephthah the Gileadite was a great warrior. He was the son of Gilead, and his mother was a prostitute. Jephthah's brothers, who were sons of Gilead and his wife, ran Jephthah off to the town of Tob so he would not get any inheritance. Now the brothers and the people wanted Jephthah to help them fight the Ammonites, and they promised to make him their leader. Jephthah sent a message to the king of the Ammonites asking why they were attacking his people. The king answered that they took over their land when the Israelites came out of Egypt. Jephthah replied that they had asked for safe passage to cross their land and refused. The king did not answer, so Jephthah promised the Lord that if he helped him against the Ammonites, anything that came out of his house to meet him when he came home, he would offer as a burnt sacrifice. The Lord helped Jephthah overtake 20 towns and subdue Ammon. When he returned home, his daughter came running out of the house. When she learned what was promised to God, she asked if she could roam the countryside with her friends for 2 months to weep because she would never marry. After 2 months, Jephthah sacrificed her to the Lord. From then on, the Israelite tradition was to send out young women for 4 days yearly to commemorate Jephthah's daughter. Judges 12. Jephthah and Ephraim. The Ephraimites crossed over to Zaphon and asked Jephthah why he fought the Ammonites without them, and they came to burn his house down. Jephthah said he had sent word, and they did not come to help. So the Gileadites struck down the Ephraimites and took over the fords that crossed the Jordan. When an Ephraimite tried to cross the Jordan, they were asked to say Shibboleth. If they could not pronounce the word correctly, they were killed. They had a different dialect and could not pronounce the word the same way the Gileadites pronounced it. 42,000 Ephraimites were killed. Jephthah led the Israelites for 6 years. He died and was buried at Gilead. Ibizan, Elon, and Abdon. After him, Ibizan, son of Bethlehem, led Israel for 7 years. He had 30 sons and 30 daughters, and he brought in 30 young women from outside his clan to marry his sons. Ibizan died and was buried in Bethlehem. After him, Elon the Zebulunite led Israel for 10 years. Then he died and was buried in Aijalon in the land of Zebulun. Abdon, son of Hillel from Pirathon, led Israel for 8 years. He had 40 sons and 30 grandsons who rode on 70 donkeys. Abdon died and was buried in Ephraim. Judges 13, the birth of Samson. Again, the Israelites did evil in the eyes of the Lord, and he gave them over to the Philistines for 40 years. A man of Zorah named Manoah from the clan of Danites had a wife who was childless and unable to give birth. The angel of the Lord, Jesus, appeared to her and told her that she would become pregnant and bear a son, and that she was not to drink wine or eat anything unclean. The boy is not to shave because he is to be a Nazirite, dedicated to God, and he would deliver the Israelites from the hands of the Philistines. Manoah wanted to fix the angel a meal, but the angel told him to make a sacrifice to God. When he burnt the offering, the angel disappeared in the smoke, and Manoah knew they had seen God. So the woman had a son they named Samson. Samson grew, and the Lord blessed him. Judges 14, Samson's marriage. Samson found a Philistine woman and asked his parents to get her for him. They wanted him to have a wife from their clan, but they went to Timnath with Samson. When they entered a vineyard, a lion came roaring toward Samson, and he tore the lion apart with his bare hands. He did not tell his parents what he had done. Later, when he returned to marry the girl, he passed by the lion carcass, and bees had made honey in the carcass. He took some honey, ate it, and brought some for his parents. Samson had a feast, which was customary for a marriage, and the people of Philistine chose 30 men to be his companions. Samson told the men if they could solve a riddle in the 7 days of the feast, he would give them 30 linen garments and 30 sets of clothing. They would have to provide him with the garments if they could not answer the riddle. The riddle was, out of the eater, something to eat, out of the strong, something sweet. The men told Samson's new wife to find out the answer, or they would burn her and her family to death. She begged Samson to tell her the answer, and he finally gave in on the 7th day. She then told her people, and they told Samson the answer, what is sweeter than honey and stronger than a lion. Samson knew that his wife had told them. In a rage, he went to Ashkelon and struck down 30 of their men, took their clothes and gave them to the men who answered his riddle. With great anger, he returned home, and his wife's father gave her to one of the men who had attended the feast. Judges 15. Samson, vengeance on the Philistines. Samson returned to visit his wife, but her father would not let him see her. Samson was mad, so he went out and caught 300 foxes, tied their tails together, and tied a torch to each set of tails. He then let them loose, and they ran through the fields, burning all the crops, vineyards, and olive groves. Because Samson had done this, the Philistines burned his wife and her father to death. So Samson slaughtered many of them and went to stay in a cave in the rock of Etam. So the Philistines came into Judah and spread out near Lehi. They told the Israelites that they came to take Samson as a prisoner. 3,000 men of Judah went to the cave and told Samson that the Philistines had come to take him prisoner and that they did not want to fight them. They tied Samson up and came to Lehi to hand him over. When the Philistines saw him, they started shouting in anger. The Spirit of the Lord came over Samson, and the ropes that bound him dropped from his hands. He grabbed a jawbone of a donkey and slayed 1,000 men. Samson was very thirsty, and God opened a spring from the ground. Samson drank the water and regained his strength. They named the spring En-Hakkore. Samson led the Israelites for 20 years. Judges 16. Samson and Delilah. Samson went to Gaza, where he spent the night with a prostitute. The people of Gaza lay in wait for him at the city gate to kill him in the morning. Samson got up in the middle of the night, ripped up the city gates, and took them to the top of the hill facing Hebron. Later, Samson fell in love with Delilah, a woman in the valley of Sorek. The Philistine rulers told her if she could find out the secret of his strength, they would each give her 1,100 shekels of silver. Samson told her he would lose his strength if he were bound with 7 fresh bowstrings that had not been dried. She told the rulers, and they brought her the strings, and she tied him up. When the rulers came in, Samson snapped the strings easily. Delilah continued to inquire about his strength, and he told her to bind him with new ropes that had never been used, and as before, he snapped them easily. Then he said to use 7 braids of his hair, weave them into fabric, and secure it with a pin. Of course, he snapped them easily. Delilah continued demanding that he tell her the secret until he could not take it any more. So he told her the secret was his hair. If his head were shaved, he would not have his strength. While he was sleeping, she shaved his head, and the Philistines were able to overtake him because God did not help him. They gouged out his eyes and made him grind grain in prison. His hair started growing back. So the Philistine rulers held a large banquet to celebrate that their god Dagon had delivered Samson to them, Samson's death. They celebrated in their temple and brought out Samson to perform for them. Samson asks the servant leading him to bring him to the temple's pillars. The temple was crowded with people, and many were up on the roof looking down at Samson. Samson asked God to give him strength one more time, so he placed his hands on the two central columns of the temple and pushed the columns apart, and the temple came down, killing 3,000 people and himself. Samson's family came to get his body, and he was buried in the tomb of his father Manoah between Zorah and Eshtaol. Judges 17, Micah's idols. Micah from the hill country of Ephraim had stolen 1,100 shekels of silver from his mother. He gave it back, and she forgave him and sent 200 shekels to a silversmith to make an idol to put in Micah's house. Micah had a shrine and household gods and assigned his son as a priest. In those days, the Israelites had no king, so they did what they saw fit. A young Levite from Bethlehem was looking for a new place to stay, and he came by Micah's house. Micah invited him to stay and become his priest for 10 shekels of silver a year and food and clothing. The young Levite agreed. The Levite became like another son to Micah. Micah said, "Now I know the Lord will be good to me, since this Levite has become my priest." Judges 18, the Danites settle in Laish. The tribe of Danites was looking for land they could claim as their inheritance. They sent 5 men to spy out the land. They came to Micah's house. They asked the Levites to ask God if their journey would be successful. The Levite priests told them that they would be successful. The 5 men then went on and saw that the people of Laish were living in peace and that the land was good. So they went back to Zorah and Eshtaol and told their fellow Danites that they should take over Laish. So 600 men came to do battle in Laish. On their way, they stopped at Micah's house and told the Levite priest that he could be their priest, and he took Micah's idol he had made, the idols to the gods, and left with the 600 men. When Micah found out, he chased them but realized they had too many men for him to fight. The Danites went on to Laish and overtook the city. They rebuilt the town and called it Dan. The Levite Jonathan, son of Gershom, the son of Moses, and his sons were the Levite priests for the tribe of the Danites until the time of captivity. They used Micah's idol for their rituals. Judges 19, a Levite and his concubine. In those days, Israel had no king. A Levite who lived in Ephraim took a concubine from Bethlehem in Judah, but she was unfaithful to him and returned home. After 3 months, her husband came to Bethlehem to persuade her to return. He took 2 donkeys and his servant. The concubine's father welcomed him, and he stayed 3 days. The father continued to ask him to stay, and after 5 days, the Levite refused to stay longer and set out toward Jebus, Jerusalem, with his servant and concubine. He did not want to stop at Jerusalem because the people who lived there were not Israelites. They went to Gebron in Benjamin and stopped to spend the night in the city square. An older man came by and offered to take them in for the night. During the night, some of the wicked men of the town surrounded the house and told the older man to bring the men out so they could have sex with them. The older man offered his daughter and the concubine. They said no, they wanted the men. So the older man sent out the concubine, and they raped her and left her dead. The Levites took the body home, cut it up, and sent the parts to all tribes of Israel. The Levites wanted every tribe to see what has happened to the Israelites without a king or someone to guide them back to God. God was not supporting them because of the sin that had filled their hearts. Judges 20, the Israelites punished the Benjamites. So all the leaders of the Israelites got together with 400,000 men with swords. They came to Gibeah to make war with the tribe of Benjamin. They told the Benjamites to turn over the men that committed the rape and death of the concubine. The Benjamites refused and prepared for war. The Israelites asked God what tribe should go to battle first, and he selected Judah. The Benjamites came out of Gibeah and killed 22,000 Israelites. The leaders of the Israelites cried out to God, and he told them to attack again, and the Benjamites cut down another 18,000 Israelites. The Ark of the Covenant was with the Israelites, and they fasted and presented burnt offerings. God told them to attack the next day, and they would overtake them. The next morning they surrounded Gibeah, and when the warriors came out of the city, they were drawn away from the city, and the rest of the Israelites went in and set it afire. When the Benjamites saw that their city was on fire, the Israelites surrounded them, and on that day 25,000 Benjamites were killed. 600 escaped into the wilderness, but the Israelites destroyed all the other cities in Benjamin. Judges 21, Wives for the Benjamites. The men of Israel had made an oath at Mizpah that no Israelite would allow his daughter to marry a Benjamite. The people went to Bethel, where they sat crying to the Lord and asking why this had happened to Israel. Now, a whole tribe is missing. The next day they built an altar and sacrificed burnt offerings. They had also said that any tribe that did not show up to assemble before the Lord at Mizpah would be put to death. The Jabesh-Gilead tribe had not come to Mizpah. The Israelites grieved for the tribe of Benjamin, and they wondered where they would find wives for the Benjamites that were left, or if there would be no children to carry on the Benjamite tribe. So the Israelites went to Jabesh-Gilead and killed everyone except the virgin women. They brought back 400 women and took them to the remaining men of Benjamin. There were not enough for all the men, so they told the last of the Benjamites who didn't have wives to hide in the vineyards at the annual feast of the Lord in Shiloh, and when the young women come out to dance, rush in and capture them and take them back to the land of Benjamin. The Israelites will tell the women's fathers that it is meant to save the tribe of Benjamin. So the Benjamites went back and rebuilt their cities, and the other tribes went back to their lands. During this time, the Israelites had no king, so they did as they saw fit. God is showing us what happens when men turn from his guidance. Summary. After Joshua died, God selected the tribe of Judah to fight against the Canaanites. They could not drive out all the Canaanites in the plains, nor the Jebusites in Jerusalem. The Israelites had forgotten what God had done for them and began worshiping false idols. God, in turn, did not help them against their enemies. God sent judges to guide them and help them to change their ways and get back in his graces. The first judge was Othniel, and the last was Samson. The book tells about each judge, what they did to help the Israelites and the trials and tribulations they went through. Even though most of the judges brought the people closer to God, after their death, the people slipped back into the sin and idol worship of the Canaanites. We are now ready to move on to the book of Ruth, where we will see that faithfulness leads to blessings from God. We have started uploading the videos covering each book of the Bible and plan to add a book every month. As of this writing, the books of Genesis through Ruth are on the channel, including a short 4-minute introduction to the Bible. Please don't forget to click on the like and subscribe buttons below the screen to help us witness to others. You can also leave a comment if you like. We answer all comments. If you would like to send this video to friends or family members, please use the share button below. Then click on the next video icon to continue the journey through the Bible. You can also click on the channel icon to see all the videos available. Thank you for watching this video. May God richly bless you and your family.